What's up, guys? I'm Starman here with the Freelo report, and joining me is X-Dawn and Zigri. Say hello, guys.
Hey, what's going on?
Hello.
So we're going to talk about some of the teams that are competing at the BSGL MSI event. And so the first on our list to talk about is Abandoned Gaming Black, and not to forget about Abandoned Gaming Red. Right there together, sister teams. And Zagri, I have a question for you specifically about this one. So Abandoned Gaming Red gets a bye in the second round there. They're going to be versus Team Instinct or Apox Gaming. Which one do you think they'd prefer to go against?
Well, this is fairly easy because Apox hasn't shown up recently, and so they're really just going to get a free win if they end up going versus Apox unless they somehow field a roster.
Okay, and then our number one team coming into MSI is actually going to be Cyber, undefeated this season. So, of course, all the rage. Thoughts? Do you think it's possible they'll drop a game here, X-Dawn?
Well, seeing as they have the round one bye, it's really going to depend on Singularity and Vortex coming in. Both these teams tied for the bottom of the standings at 8th place, respectively, both with a 3-7 record. They would have to make the upset of the century in order to best Cyber in round two. Coming into the semis, they could either be, if they do beat one of these two teams in round two, they could be against Gamma Esports or Club Ice. And now, although we've seen improvements from Gamma, I heard Club Ice has also made some changes recently, and so really, I think the semifinals is where we're going to see if Cyber is really tested or not.
Okay, and switching over to Zagri, do you have anything to add to that or another angle?
I definitely think Cyber could drop a game. It's very possible that they could just plow it straight to finals and never drop a game. But in the best of 3 or best of 5 format, it's really not that uncommon to drop one game because someone will figure out your strategy and then you have to switch it up.
Okay, so another follow-up question for that one. Matatrev, who's part of Team Cyber as a mid laner there, has the highest kills in all of the BSGL currently. Not by a huge amount, but a considerable amount. So do you think that his playstyle is lending them to heavy kill participation games? Or is it just that because the team's winning that he's getting all these kills?
I think it's safe to say that they definitely play around the mid lane when you look at that kill participation. 51 kills, that's absolutely nothing to joke about in such a short amount of games. So he's definitely, obviously, one of the strongest members on their team at the moment.
Okay, so Zagri, follow-up question on that one. Do you think that it's possible that they might be playing around him too much, putting too many eggs in one basket?
A little bit. I cannot remember what game it was, but I was watching one game and he did look a bit shaky. He still did okay, and they are really playing around him pretty heavily. But another thing is their team just goes in. They're always hyper-aggressive. They're always going in. They're always really aggressive. That's why they're winning games. That's why they're coming back. Is because their level of aggression is so high, and when you're behind, teams don't expect it. And so they're really just coming out of nowhere, pulling off these really kind of soft wombos. They're not a full commitment on a wombo, but they definitely are just like a very heavy engaged team with a lot of burst. And so they're constantly coming back. And he's doing very well, but admittedly he is getting a lot of blast hits through it.
Well, go ahead and coin a phrase there, soft wombo. I like that a lot. So moving on to our team pick of the week, and that is the team that we think probably should be watched most, and that's Club Ice. So Club Ice has had kind of an interesting record, and they're sitting a little lower in the standings now than I'm sure they would like to be standing, but not anything to scoff at, and they've had some strong games.
Definitely, it should be some pretty fun games to watch. Club Ice loves to run wombo and engage comps, so they're always very entertaining and fun to watch. And definitely, they could pull out some kind of, I guess you call it new meta mix-up on wombos and just run some slightly unconventional champions that aren't currently being run, so it could be an interesting game.
Okay, so another kind of follow-up question, especially at Zagri, because you play top lane. Now, we've got Fred Fredrickson in the top, and he's got pretty good record. He's standing very well overall on form. He's got good CS per game. In fact, he's in the leaderboard for top 5 CS, and he's actually got he's on the board for least deaths per game. So is there anything particularly like to talk about his play style and how that impacts the team maybe?
He's very solid at farming. He's always very aggressive, and he just consistently wins his lane over and over and over, which is very good, especially with his playstyle. Because one thing is, I've not a lot of people notice this with his playstyle, but he's actually feast or famine. Basically, he's going to do really well or extremely poorly. But he's so good at being consistent in the early game that he almost always comes up extremely strong. And so he's been able to play around his weakness, and he's doing a very good job of that. And we'll see if teams are able to exploit that a little bit more.
Okay, so staying on Club Ice, the AD, I played Dota twice. This is kind of why it's our team to watch. Two players here that I think deserve to be talked about. I played Dota twice, is currently at the highest 5 CS or top 5 CS per game. So it's an average, and he's quite a bit higher than the others. Now, basically the question I want to ask is, do you think this is because he's farming really well, or do you think maybe this is a sign of a drawback where he's spending too much time farming and not enough time really in the team fights, because they're not necessarily final form?
Well, personally, I think looking at CS differentials here is going to be pretty key. Because looking at Gamma's AD carry, in particular Oathbreaker, I think it's pretty almost historical that he's had lower CS numbers than his opponent. So if Club Ice could find some way to snowball off of that, like seeing as their AD carry is consistent on getting high numbers of farm, and they could possibly pull it late game into where they get more of a hyper carry, then I definitely think they could more play into that and maybe pull off on the aggression a little bit earlier than they normally do.
All right, Zagri, you want to touch any more on that?
I definitely don't think he's putting too much time into farming. He's doing a very good job of last hitting. In our game against him, I really didn't feel like he was lacking presence in the early to mid team fights. He was consistently there, and there wasn't a moment where I felt he shouldn't be down bot lane farming. They do a lot of pushing out the sidelines and kind of split up, but they do a good job of keeping ward coverage and staying back and allowing to get that extra farm and just keeping those sidelines pushed, which is a very good thing to be doing. But overall, I don't think he's spending too much time farming.
So, closing thoughts. You guys have something in particular like to talk about, or anything we didn't address quite?
Really, I think we hit on every key point here. It should be pretty... Although we are hoping for upsets, it should be pretty straightforward going into this.
I happen to agree. I won't reveal my picks. I'll save them for the after fact, so I can always make myself look good in hindsight.
APOC stream.
Thanks to you guys. APOC stream. Yep, jumping on that APOC hype wagon. But I would like to thank you guys so much for joining us here on the Freelo Report. And I think that's conclusion.
That little mouse, 'cause I'm an albatross. I'm an albatross.